Greetings and welcome to the show, Black Fridays, where we'll focus on making our. Okay, scratch all of that. Scratch all of that. All right. Greetings and welcome to the show, Black Fridays, where we are focused on raising our children to be proud and black. My name is Freddie Taylor. I'm the CEO and founder of Urban Intellectuals, where we make it fun and easy to learn black history. We do this with a series of historical education products designed to write the black community back into the pages of world history and back into the hearts and the minds of our community. How are you doing today? Look, if you are watching this on replay, do me a favor and type replay in the comments. Most of you guys are probably going to catch this on replay, but if you're watching it on replay or if you're catching us live, do me a favor and let us know where you're watching from. Put your location down below. I'd appreciate to check out where are people checking us out from. It's a very exciting show for you today. I am very excited to talk to you about Patrice Lumumba and set the stage for things that happened all around and leading up to his rule of the Congo, right? So I want to get into that. But before we do, I have to remind you that Black Fridays is an 8-week series. So if you haven't caught our earlier renditions, please go back and check those out. You can do that by joining our mailing list, right? So sankofaclub.com/Black Friday, sankofaclub.com/Black Fridays. But during the Black Friday show, we're bringing you Black history and empowerment designed to liberate our people and talk to our young people about our wonderful future. We believe that we can change the world and by filling the missing pages of world history, which are the pages of Black history, it can do just that because of the impact that it's going to have on not only ourselves, but our young people as well. We want to be a catalyst for this change, right? Black Fridays is a little bit of a different show, so I want to just make sure that I beat this point home one more time. It's broken down into 3 different parts, right? So you have a discussion section, a reason section, and then a task section. And the discussion section is what you'll see here today. I'll be pontificating about a piece of history that I believe that is important. And then in the reason section, I'll give you reasons why I think that is important for us to not only know this information, but pass it along to our next generation or pass it along to your children. And then during the task section, if you join us at sankofaclub.com/Black Fridays, you will be receiving additional information and insight about each subject matter on the show. But then also you'll be receiving tasks for you to complete at the end of the show as well, right? So just building on our knowledge base and then what we're learning while we're in these discussions. Hey, do me a favor and give me some of your opinions and what you're thinking about Patrice Lumumba leading into the discussion before I get started, right? You can type those down below. I appreciate you there. I want you to get involved, but I want you to remember that it is non-negotiable that you share this information with the next generation. We have to pass along our stories. The educational system in the West and in the world in general has already shown that they don't value us in history and they don't value our contributions. So we have to make sure that we are doing the work. We can't expect anyone else to educate ourselves to liberation. We must do this on our own. So it's non-negotiable. Let's step up to the plate. Let's get this done. But it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot of effort. You just have to be consistent. We live by the 5 minutes a day keeps the miseducation away mantra here at Urban Intellectuals and the Sankofa Club. 5 minutes a day keeps the miseducation away. Say it with me. 5 minutes a day keeps the miseducation away. Give me 5 minutes down in the comments if you're with us, right? But it's very simple to do, very simple not to do, right? But if we want to make sure that our group inside of the Sankofa Club is sticking with our mantra and is living and embodying it, right? All right, so let's go. Got a couple of more things that I need to talk about. Oh, okay, right. I almost forgot. I want you to know that what you see here is just a part of the Black Friday show. You sign up at sankofaclub.com/Black Fridays, and we're going to give you the rest of it, which is emails throughout the week that just gives you additional insight and information on the content and the information that I'm talking about, right? So make sure you do that and join us. Last bit of housekeeping. We got some very special offers coming up for the Sankofa Club, right? If you're not familiar with the Sankofa Club, please understand this is the resource for you to help educate your children about our Black history and culture. We provide ways for you to engage your children with worksheets, activities, and Black History classes 5 days a week taught by our teachers directly to your children if you just sign up and join us. But we got some special Black Friday offers coming up. But again, it's only available to those individuals that sign up for SankofaClub.com/Black Fridays. If you don't sign up, don't complain to me and say that Freddie didn't tell you, right? I wanted to make sure that you get an opportunity to sign up and join us. Now, let's get down to business, Freddie. All right, I just got all that out of the way. I need to stretch because we're going to lean into this discussion about Patrice Lumumba, the essence of Africa for Africans, right? So I'm hearkening back to our very first episode of Black Fridays when we did Marcus Garvey, right? Because he's always talking about up you mighty nation, but Africa for Africans, right? So I want to set the stage for this because, again, Garvey felt that way because Africa hasn't been controlling Africa, right? We can argue, are they controlling Africa today? There's a debate for either side of that's going on, right? But let's take it back into the past, right? So leading up to the discussion on Patrice Lumumba, I feel like it's necessary that I got to set the stage, right? So I need to go back in history a little bit. And if you've been following along with our series here, then I'll share with you that I have quite extensive notes here that I need to write down and make sure I get some of these dates right and some of this information so that the timeline makes sense to you, right? So last week we talked about John Henry Clark, and he was talking about context, right? Not just taking in history for what it is, but understanding the context of what else is going on, right? So it's important to understand what's leading up to this, right? Because another thing that Dr. Clark talks about, right? Y'all know I love Dr. Clark. That's the master teacher in my eyes, right? But he talks about you shouldn't discuss anything until you understand how the situation came to be, right? So we're not going to just talk about Patrice Lumumba in his lifetime, right? I don't even have our graphic up. Here we go. All right, so we're not going to talk about Patrice Lumumba in his particular lifetime. I'm going to give you some context on leading up to his birth and death, right? Murder, excuse me, not death. He didn't just die; he was killed. Correct? All right, so let's get it right. Let's use your words, Freddie. Okay, so to get this context set, we got to take you back to the 1200s, right? So in 1200, the rise of the Congo Empire was going on in this area of Central Africa, correct? Okay, so the Congo, Kongo, right? Congo Empire, right? Was happening around, started coming together around the 1200s, right? So I don't want to get too detailed, but that's what was going on. So now you have your people living in this particular area called the Congo Empire, right? So 1842 is the first time that the Portuguese, any of the Europeans started to coming around down into this area, poking their nose around, right? So you get Portuguese explorers trying to find and deliver and build trade routes and things of that nature that's going on. The 16th, 17th century brought a lot more of them, right? Brought the British, brought the Dutch, brought the Portuguese, brought the French, and more into these areas, right? And they're slave trading throughout this particular time period, right? That's what's going on. But also the Muslim slave trade, the Arab slave trade, is going on as well, centered around ivory in this particular area, right? It's a really fascinating history. I advise you to go back and check out all the particular details. I only got 30 minutes or so with you, so I can't parse through all of them, right? So I'm going to try to just set the scene a little bit, right? So now we're coming into the 1800s, right? And you see me squinting, that's because I don't have my glasses on. If I put my glasses on, you're going to get this nasty reflection of my screen. I don't want that. I'm just fired up to get into this, right? So around the 1870s is when really you start to mark the beginning of the Belgian takeover of this particular area, right? And you get Leopold and Belgium's 75-ish year reign of terror, right? Terror is really the proper way to contextualize what was going on in this particular area, right? So in 1877, Leopold woos this guy, explorer named Henry Morton Stanley, right, who emerged from the mouth of the Congo River and started talking about the wealth of resources and the land of milk and honey that lies inside of the Congo, right? So Leopold is a very avarice man. He's greedy. He's ruthless. He's really demented, to be honest with you. We talk about Hitler and the 6 million people that he murdered, which is absolute tragedy, and everybody knows all about this Holocaust that happened. But during Leopold's reign of terror, anywhere from 10 to 15 million Congolese people were murdered under his regime. And something is just one of the world's greatest tragedies. And yet many of us don't even know his name. I find that very interesting, right? And I want to come back to that in just a second. So Leopold is doing his nasty thing down in the Congo area, right, in 1870s. I'm reaching for my book, The Scramble for Africa, right? This is a really short read. See how thin this is, but it gives you good insight onto the demonic nature of all of these individuals in their scramble for Africa, right? So the late 1800s was called The Scramble for Africa. I got a little piece in here that I want to read. I just want to make sure I'm in my right spot. All right, so 1879, Leopold commissioned Stanley to establish his authority in the area in the Congo Basin region, correct? Okay, so 1884, 1885, European powers, they get together and they form the Berlin Conference. So if you Google Berlin Conference, you will get a lot of information on that. And this is really what this book, The Scramble for Africa, talks about. So in essence, the Berlin Conference was all the European nations coming together and dividing up Africa. So you know how you have those 54 countries in Africa today? Well, most of them were, those lines that are drawn was drawn at the Berlin Conference. These are all white Europeans sitting in Europe, in Berlin, divvying up Africa. Just let that settle in for a second. I think that that's poignant and important because Europe has no resources. There's nothing up there, right? And all the wealth that's generated in Europe comes off of not only our backs, but also our lands as well. All of it. I think that that's a very important point to drive home. In fact, in this book, they talk about how Belgium feels left out because they don't have anything. They don't have all the wealth and resources and domination that in the late 1800s that's going on. They don't have the extensive slave trade of the United States at the time, right? They don't have all this free labor of the West Indies. They don't have even the slave labor that's going on in the Arab nations, right? We always let them off the hook for what they've done to us, right? But check this out. I thought that this was fascinating. So you can see Leopold. It should be Devil Leopold. They call him King Leopold. I'm going to call him Devil Leopold. Okay, so it says, this is right leading up to the Berlin Conference. He says his opening move, Devil Leopold's opening move, was simply to announce to the world his intentions of forming an international organization to combat slavery in the Congo. Get this, which in the age of abolition was an extremely poignant and shrewd maneuver to satisfy the more mercantile interests of the ruling classes of Europe. He offered up the Congo River as an international free trade zone, and to capture the interests of the United States, he suggested that the Congo as a destination to repatriate freeborn blacks and their freed slaves, right? So I think about this. I just told you that the man murdered almost 15 million people, but he kicked it all off, starting off calling himself an abolitionist because he wanted to stop slavery, right? But really what he was up to was he's trying to stop the Arab slave trade, which was supposedly banned at the time, but it wasn't because it was still going on because they were smuggling in into the northern Congo and taking out ivory and then using slaves for that. So Leopold comes up and stumbles on this and say, hey, we're going to go into abolitionist mode and ban slavery from this area. This is how he won the favor of the European ruling classes and even the backing of the United States, right? Who were trying to deal with their Negro problem. Did you remember 1863, Emancipation Proclamation, 1865, Juneteenth, freedom for the Negroes in America, So, but they're still trying to figure out what to do with these Negroes, right? They came, they brought them for labor. Labor time was supposedly done. So now what are we going to do with them? Send them to the Congo, right? Devil Leopold says, bring them on over, right? I thought that was really interesting. Leopold was able to secure primary rights at the Berlin Conference over a territory of the Congo River catchment, a portion of the globe more than 3 times the size of France, right? 3 times the size of France. And these people didn't have nothing, okay? And then they come down into Africa and get filthy rich as a result, right? So that's 1885. The Free State, the Congo Free State headed by Leopold happened in 1885. So he didn't even claim it for Belgium. He claimed it for himself, right? And that's where his reign of terror really just began. Now, they're making money primarily off of ivory until the Industrial Revolution around the world really kind of takes off. And then rubber prices skyrocket, blows up. And guess who is the home of rubber? That's right, the Congo, right? So they started to get rich fast, and it was absolutely crazy. There was one more resource that I want to bring up, but I'm going to pause, hold there, and come back in just a moment. I'll tie that in because it has much to do with the death of Patrice Lumumba. Okay. 1908, Belgium steps in and annexes the Congo and takes over because there's been a lot of riot and pushback and fighting and all of this stuff because of the reign of terror of this devil Leopold, right? So obviously people are upset. They're going to push back, right? Like you're murdering and killing all of these people through the harsh work, just through the disrespect of life and the conditions of working in these rubber plantations, right? Let's see. So this is going on and Belgium is supposedly civilizing the area. So things are still horrific for the Congolese people. July 2nd, 1925, Patrice Lumumba is born, right? So he's just a young man growing up in Belgium, trying to figure out his way. He's got different trades. He obviously was a bright man. They say he could dance. His oratory skills are legendary. He was a poet. He spoke something like 5 or 6 languages. He got an opportunity to go to Belgium to study in a class known as the Evolves, right? So it kind of reminded me of like the W.B. Du Bois moment where like, are we in the classical education or are we in the practical education? So he got an opportunity to travel to Belgium and to be enlightened on some other things, right? Amongst the, I wouldn't call it black elite, but he had more opportunity in the Evolves than in many other people in Congo at the time, right? It's really, really interesting if you decide to go through and parse out some of those details. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit. In 1955, Belgium starts to talk about their 30-year plan, concession plan, right? Like we're gonna get into allowing these Africans to rule themselves slowly over time, right? But the catch is nobody believed them. Why would you ever believe that your oppressor is just gonna give up their rights or give up their colony, right? So the suspicion is that this was never going to happen. They were just stringing the Congolese people out as long as they could until they could flip the story again, right? Now, March 6, 1957 is an important date because it's Ghana's Independence Day. And Kwame Nkrumah becomes the president of Ghana. Patrice Lumumba happens to be at some of the conferences and he's talking with Nkrumah, he's listening to Nkrumah speak, and he is inspired. He is inspired. Africa for Africans, right? So here comes the vision of Marcus Garvey to the forefront, right? That the talk of Africa ruling itself. And Lumumba is infatuated. I ain't gonna say infatuated, that's a bad word. To say he is heavily interested in Kwame Nkrumah's rule, Kwame Nkrumah's mindset, Kwame Nkrumah's outlook. I'm looking because I have some Nkrumah books here. I have many more than this, but I am getting really interested in studying and reading about the life of Nkrumah, right? Here is one of the particular books that I'm reading just to keep me abreast of Patrice Lumumba, right? Ahead of his time. Really good read. Another short read. Doesn't take a lot. We'll have all of this inside of when you sign up for the sankoficlub.com/Black Fridays, right? We'll have links to all of this stuff and the books that I mentioned. Okay. Now, Lumumba's educated. He's inspired by Nkrumah. So in 1958, he established the National Movement Congolese. So the MNC, right? Yeah, I think I got that right. Okay, so he establishes his movement. There's push for independence, but parts of the country it's in turmoil. There's a lot going on. The southern part is talking about succession. I think it's pronounced Katanga. Is talking about succeeding away from the Union. Like people are getting mad. There's all types of madness going on, right? In 1959, the riots are really escalating, and Belgium is clearly losing control of the colony altogether. They're shady in panic mode. They don't really know what to do. In 59, early 60, they start national elections trying to figure out who's going to actually be the successor to take over. I'm always sweating during these things, right? Who's going to be the successor to take over, right? Now, Lumumba and his wonderful speaking patterns, and he has coalesced about 2/3 of the country, right, at the time. And again, the southern region that you start to find out that's heavily influenced by Belgium and the United States, right? So a lot of the white Belgian people are living in southern Congo, and the United States has some interest in there that I haven't mentioned just yet, but I'm going to get to in just a second. In 1960, Lumumba wins. He's elected the first prime minister of the Congo, and Kasavubu as his president, right? Try to remember that name because it comes important in just a moment. There was a speech, right? So the Belgian president or prime minister or whatever the hell he's called, I don't really care, right? I don't like to honor these people because they are some of the most despicable individuals on the planet, if you ask me. He's doing this, I won't call it a succession speech, but Lumumba is now the president. Belgium is turning over the reins or the keys of the empire, the colony, or the country to Lumumba. He's giving this speech. And during this speech, he's giving honor and praise to the reign of all the Belgian people before him, for getting to this moment, for turning it over. And Lumumba is sitting there listening to him, and I can just imagine him gritting his teeth thinking like, who the hell this guy think he is going to talk to us and disrespect us like this and honor these clowns right here in front of us. So Lumumba gets up to the mic, and then he calls that trash out. And he basically calls the Belgian rule, an evil dictatorship that shouldn't be stomached, right? People are like literally gasped that in the presence of the Belgian king or whoever this dude is, that Lumumba would talk so truthfully about what they've done in the community or in the country, right? And they are livid, right? So some people say this is the reason that he was executed. No. I don't think it helped, but I don't think that was the particular reason, right? All right, so after the election, like, it's still fights going all over. It's like still touch and go if it's going to be a country at all. But then you start to find out that the Belgium is working with the southern Katanga area, which used to be called Leopoldville, right? And then the United States has interest in the area as well, right? So they're kind of like still destabilizing the area. It reminds me of what happened to Haiti after they achieved their independence, right? You remember our Haitian Revolution discussion in week 3. So they're still there in fractions messing things up, right? Let's put it that way. But Lumumba is trying to keep the country together. Now there's riots. His military commander, oh man, I done forgot his name. I gotta get that name for you. Mbotu, there we go. He is like really defected. He defected from Lumumba, and he's really trying to separate, do his own thing. So he's got the army. So he has the army, and Lumumba has the government, but they don't have any army to quell the revolution, right? Or the resistance that's going on. So Lumumba reaches out to Belgium, asks for assistance. Lumumba reaches out to the United States, asks for assistance. Both of them turn him down flat. He reaches out to the UN. They turn him down flat. It is like chaos going on. Lumumba turns to Russia. Lumumba turns to Russia and asks for assistance in quelling the revolution, the fight back, the pushback, and to try to regain control of his country. Now here is the key point, if you ask me. When he turned to Russia, what else is going on in the world at the time, right? We're talking 1960s, not early 1960s, right? What's going on at the time? The Cold War is going on. So when he turned to Russia, the United States is like, oh, is that right? Now, why is that important? Because the United States was mining uranium out of the Congo. What is uranium used for? The making of bombs. Oh, so Patrice Lumumba turns to Russia. If Russia gains assistance, they're going to gain access to the uranium mines. The United States can't have that, right? So if you ask me, that's why I think the brother was assassinated. Okay, let's continue. So the revolution is kind of going on. The president, Kosovo, right? Kasavubu, right? Turns on Lumumba. They have him arrested. Some clause, I don't know, don't get me into those hairy details. He has Lumumba arrested. Lumumba is arrested. He ends up escaping. They catch him later, and the Belgian officials catch him. They tie him to a tree, him and two other officials. They shoot him. One by one, they tell you this over and over. One by one, they shoot him. Bang, bang, bang. Kills Lumumba, buries him. I guess they're keeping his teeth, some pieces of his teeth as souvenirs. I mean, people are sadistic, right? But they bury him. Then guess who comes along and digs him up? The United States, the CIA comes along and digs up Patrice Lumumba. They dismember his body and they put him in acid. What? Like that is utter insanity to me. But I think they were really just driving home a point. You can't be talking to Russia while we're in the middle of the Cold War. That's why I think that's what happened. Everybody got their chief speculation on what's happening. I'm going with that one. But it's clear that the United States and the CIA was involved in his assassination. It's clear that they were involved in the the dissolving of his body via acid. Absolutely insanity, right? But when you think about the atrocities that not only this country, but all these European countries have committed on the face of the globe, putting somebody in some acid really ain't that big of a deal, right? Sadistic though, sadistic information. So after that, the presidency the country is basically taken over by Mbotu, the general of the army. He takes it over, and his reign lasts for 30-some odd years, backed by the United States and backed by Belgium. Same thing, puppet governments that are being upheld by European powers. Same thing that we see throughout Africa, right? It seems at our times, but one that is a story that we must remember, and it must be told again, right? But the legend of Lumumba lives because he was a Pan-Africanist. He was a nationalist for Africa. He wanted Africans to work together and to be a cohesive unit. Again, harkens back to who? Marcus Mosiah Garvey, right? Africa for Africans, up you mighty nation. We over 1 billion strong around the world today. It's time to unite. These were the calls of all of our ancestors, right? And you hear the calls from Patrice Lumumba as well. Again, we're going to sit you up with some of his speeches. He speaks French, so you have to do the subtitle thing. But powerful words from a powerful brother, and one that I think that is critically important that we continue to tell his story, because it links to so much more, right? It's not just about the Congo. It's about everything that led up to the Congo. I talked to you about the slave trade, right? I talked to you about the ivory and the Arab slave trade as well, right? It puts us in the middle of all that. It puts you in the middle of the Berlin Conference. It brings it all real. It puts you in the middle and puts you front and center. The devil Leopold. They call him King Leopold II. He's the devil Leopold I, if you ask me, right? But that is, I mean, 10 to 15 million people he killed, and you don't even know his name, right? I just can't fathom why we don't know his name. Like, well, actually, we know. We've been miseducated because the miseducational system of Europeans and the West is just running rampant around the world, and they only highlight things that have happened to them, and they make that more important in your minds. We've got to wipe that away and see tragedy as tragedy, and see Africans as humans, and see ourselves in God. Frankly, right? Like John Henry Clarke says, the worst thing that the Europeans did was they colonized God, right? So we don't even see ourselves in our deity, right? So when you don't even see yourselves in your deity, and your oppressors definitely don't see yourselves in their deity, then the atrocities that happen to you aren't important. They aren't mentioned. They're left out of the pages of world history. They're left out the hearts and the minds of your children. But let them start talking about Hitler. Let them start talking about the ovens, and all of your children know all of this information, which is important because, as John Henry Clarke said, one life is one too many to be lost and to be spared or to be murdered. 6 million is an atrocity, and it should be noted, and it should be known in the pages of world history. But 10 to 15 million Congolese people murdered at the hands of Devil Leopold is definitely another atrocity that needs to be known. Now, in Europe, what Hitler did was a European case against Europeans. What Leopold did was a European attack on Africans. That's an international affair, right? This is a travesty and something that we must correct in the minds of the next generation. I think it's important that we remember Patrice Lumumba because of the pivotal place in history in which he lived and how he ties all of that older history together. He brings out the atrocities of, again, the Arab nations and the West. It brings in the Berlin Conference. It brings in the devil in the details behind the money and his pursuit of greed. It brings in the Cold War. It brings in the call for unity. He brings in the call for nationalism. He brings in the call that Marcus Messiah Garvey called over 100 years ago. Up, you mighty nation, it's time for you to come together. But until we start filling in these voids in our history, till we start filling in these voids in our understanding of the timeline of history, of what's going on, we'll continue to chase our tails, right? Because our oppressor has already shown that they have no interest in telling us the truth about our history, about their history, about any history, to tell you the truth. But if we want to start putting things together and start working together globally as a people, then these are the types of discussions that we need to have, and we need to have them with our children so that we can correct our children before the miseducational system leans into them too far. All right, I'm done with that rant. But those are the reasons that I feel like Patrice Lumumba in this situation is imperative that we know and that we pass along to our children. As for your task for this particular discussion, I want you to join the mailing list, SankofaClub.com/Black Fridays. You don't want to miss it. We got a dumb Black Friday offer coming up, centered around learning Black history, making it fun and easy to learn Black history, right? We got a crazy offer that only people on our list is going to get. So I need you to make sure you sign up there. When you sign up, we got some freebies for you. Come on, man. We always giving. If you know anything about us at Urban Intellectuals and the Sankofa Club, we're always giving more than you expect. So go ahead and sign up. You can grab a quick free gift, but I'm telling you, you don't want to miss this offer. 2, I need you to discover on the map, where's the Congo? Share it with your children. Show the relationship to the water, to the ocean. Find the Congo River. Figure out where all what's the chief trade going on in the day today. And then I want you to find out what has happened since Patrice Lumumba's murder, right? Don't say his death. He didn't die. He was murdered. Okay, so find out what happened to the Congo since Patrice Lumumba's murder. Those are my tasks for you. I'm very excited for you guys to continue to join us on our journey through Black Friday. But I want you to remember Patrice Lumumba. I want you to remember the essence of why of our man Marcus Garvey, right? Up, you mighty nation, Africa for Africans, and all of its glory, right? and a call for nationalism, right? And a call for unity amongst the community. It's time, and the more we learn about one another, the more we'll love, honor, and respect one another. So let's dig into each other's history and stop finding ways to divide ourselves, right? The world is doing enough of that. Let's find reasons to come together. And one main reason to come together is so that we can properly educate our children on their history and their culture, so they look at themselves with love, honor, and respect. Until next time, good people, you know what it is. Love, peace, and Black power. I think I stopped.